Good evening, Mohamedou.
Hi.
So finally we made it. Welcome to The Hague, or as we did at the test, you said it's almost like a curse. See you in The Hague, isn't it?
No, you are not going to see me because I'm going to get myself a fake American passport. And I will never make it to The Hague.
No, it was just a question here in the audience. What's the reason why you can't travel to The Hague? Is it the Dutch government, or is it the Mauritanian government? Or is it the American government behind this all?
Yes. So when I was released, I was not allowed to have my papers. I was without passport per American orders. So I had started the fight, and I said, no, I don't accept this. The American president cannot deprive an American citizen from her passport. So it stands to reason that American president cannot deprive me from having my passport outside the rule of law. It's like a very clear case of shoot the messenger. Yeah. I was not allowed to share my story. I was not allowed to. And I fought for 3 years. And I got my passport. And now some very crazy person in American embassy wrote to European countries not to allow me, quote unquote, to seek medical treatment. And this was like leaked to the Der Spiegel, the magazine. And then wherever I go, they said, no, we are not going to give a visa. And I say, why? They said, because you've been to Guantanamo Bay. And I said, yeah, but I'm a victim. I'm not a perpetrator. And they would say, no, because the fact of the matter, when you have problem with America, you will have problem with every country, especially in the Western hemisphere of our planet. But the good news, I'm hoping soon that the good people of Netherlands will allow me to come to your beautiful country. That's why I say every day, ik hou van the Netherlands.
We hope that too, because of course we're going to talk about your book, your diary, but I also want to talk about the other projects you're doing here in the Netherlands and the novel you just. But first, let's get back. This must be tiresome for you, I think. For 14 years, you've been in Guantanamo facility prison, and they've been asking the same questions over and over and over again, as we can read in your diary. And now you're a free man. And now you're doing these interviews and getting asked these questions over and over again. How tiresome is that for you? Or do you find it important to keep telling your stories on festivals like these?
Yes, to both. Like, it's tiring, but it's very important because I'm a survivor of the to use my good brother Larry's word, the very long arm of the outlaw, and I'm talking because there are people who could not talk to you, because they died under torture, like Gul Rahman died in the cold room I described in my book. Not the same room, just the same type of torture. He died, he froze to death. And some people would say, but those people have doctors and have people, why didn't they save his life? I understand why he died. I remember one day I was stood up, and not by a date, by guards. And they were asking me questions, and then I didn't say anything, and then they thought I was resisting them, and they kept they were like they kept pouring water on me in the cold room, what they didn't know, I couldn't talk. I couldn't talk.
It was like physically impossible for you to talk.
Yes, the hypothermia started to set in. And this happened to me only twice in my life. I don't know whether this happened to any of you guys. With raise hand if you were so cold you couldn't talk at all.
I'm going to, I don't see any hands here. No.
Okay,
no
you
hands.
guys grew up in Europe anyway, you guys. That's really bad. So, but this is when you are exposed to the cold, you know, the muscle cannot move anymore. And then he kept pouring water because he thought, because I looked like, you know, good, but I was dying. He didn't understand that. And then this girl, her name is Staff Sergeant Mary. She told him to stop. I don't know how, but I was listening, but I couldn't talk, you know, and she saved my life actually. And I'm talking because also Dali War was beaten to death, you know, in the same prison I had been to in Bagram. He was beaten to death. I mean, and he was a case of mistaken identity. He was grabbed from Afghanistan and was taken to the prison.
So we're now already in the middle of the story, but let's try and for the people who have not yet read your book or the many interviews, to just take them up to speed. So you were born in Mauritania in 1970, and in 1988 you went to Germany to study there, and from there you went to Canada, and I think it was in Canada where the Secret Service first got their eyes on you because they thought you were involved in what was called the Millennium Plot. And I have to admit, for me, this was a new term. I didn't know the Millennium Plot, but that was a plot to bomb LA airport, right?
Yes, the Millennium Plot, yes.
Yeah, so, and they thought you were involved somehow in this Millennium Plot. And then you got your first hearings, interrogations, but they released you and then you went home. And after 9/11, that's where the story picks up again, because then the local security forces came to your house and asked you to join them. At that moment, did you have any suspicion what was going to happen, or did you think, oh, we're here again for the same hearings? Was there in your mind already something? Oh, it's past 9/11. This might be something different already.
Look. When I was kidnapped from Dakar, like you mentioned, 2000, I was put in Mauritania and my passport was taken away. You know, and then I started my fight. I took it upon myself. I said, why people in Germany have rights, people in Canada have rights, people in USA have rights? Why I'm the only one without rights? You know, because my time in Germany, I saw that people elected their leaders and they decided their rights, and police don't come to your home and take you away without due process. And I said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to fight this all the way to the end. I could have hidden, you know, but I said, I'm not hiding. I'm going to go to the police, say, I didn't do anything. What do you want from me? This was a very bad strategy. You know, and I remember vividly the day they came to me. It was 4 p.m., around 4 p.m. Mm-hmm. And I was very tired. It was Ramadan. And those police agent, 2 police agents from Mukhabarat, the secret police, came to me. And, you know, with unmarked car and with plain clothes. They said, we need you to come with us. I said, okay, let me change my clothes. And then my mother was in the house, only me and my mother. And she told me, I know why they come forward. I said, why? She said, because you watch TV. I told you not to watch the news. And like, because we grew up in a dictatorship, military dictatorship, like people should not know information, should not know anything, you know. We are supposed to know nothing. And she understands this by virtue of instinct. And and this is not like in Holland where the police come to you and said, we have arrest warrant because of 1, 2, 3. They just received a call from the US, grab him and kidnap him. And we cannot accept this. This is fascism. If you cannot do this to a US citizen, you should not be able to do it to a Mauritanian citizen because I was born in Africa. This is my fight. We cannot do this. You are in Den Haag. Den Haag, only people who are subject to rule of law in the criminal court are people from Africa and from small countries. You cannot take American war criminal to the Hague, and this needs to stop. This cannot go on in 2022. And so I went with them, and I could to this day see my mother holding her prayer beads, frantically praying in the rearview mirror. And after about 200 meters, we turned right, and she disappeared forever. And she died when I was in a prison. And
That's the last time you saw her?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Last time I saw her, and she kept coming to prison, bringing me food and clothes, because they told her I'm in prison. And when she asked to see me, they said, no, you cannot see him. It's better for you not to see him, but he's good, he's doing well, he's very happy. You know? And then she brings them money, and she brings them clothes, she brings food, day in, day out. And I was in black site, CIA black site in Jordan, and then in Afghanistan.
So your family didn't get any information about you for about 3 or 4 years. Well, you were shipped first to Jordan, then to Afghanistan, and finally to Cuba, to Guantanamo Bay. And they had no idea where you were.
No, the story was broken by Der Spiegel in 2000, I think late 2002. And after like a year or more than 1 year after my kidnapping. And I remember, I tell you this, since you talk about crossing borders.
Yeah.
I was taken, and one of the country I landed in was Cyprus. And so I know that Cyprus is a member state of the European Union. And they cannot like participate because by virtue of international conventions, they cannot participate in kidnapping and disappearance of people. And I was praying and hoping they would control the plane and take me out and put me in prison, because I want to go to a prison where I could have a lawyer. But no, they were in it with Americans. They just, you know, they turn a blind eye. And
I think we should also inform the people that thinking about flying to Cyprus from Mauritania, you might think about how normal people fly, how tourists fly, but for you it was not even remotely like that. You were had a blind face. You were in a small airplane, muffled ears, and just schlepped around the world like that.
Bad, because for a young African person to get a visa to Cyprus is next to impossible. But if you are kidnapped by the US, you don't even need a passport.
You can travel all over the world.
All over the world. This is really like something that, you know, that needs to stop. You know, people, all human beings deserve human rights. And this is by virtue of international conventions that the United States signed up to, but also my country signed up to. Yeah. You know,
it's really strange that your country just let you go. You mentioned it a few times in the book that you, this anger and it's so strange that the Mauritanian government just cooperates with this.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, those and this is like a win-win for dictatorships, because it's like so you violate human rights to fight against terrorism, quote unquote, and we let you do whatever you want in your country. You can like kill innocent people. You can oppress political dissent, opposition, but you need to cooperate with us. You know?
Yeah. So then they took you finally from Jordan, Afghanistan to Guantanamo. And what I never realized until reading your book was that there was like all these different factions within the American government. So the CIA, the FBI, the Ministry of Defense, and they were all working not with each other, but alongside and against each other. So you had different regimes while being there. Can you please explain something about how these first few years, how the regime changed for you?
Yes, absolutely. Like I remember, so when I came, they were not briefed about me because I was blindfolded. And after so many hours, I peed in my pants. And it was like the best urination I've ever had because I almost died in the plane because I was in a diaper and psychologically I couldn't urinate. But when they get me out of the plane, put me on the ground, I peed and peed and peed. Oh, I felt so good. I didn't care about prison anymore. And they took me and then they, stripped me naked, everything. They start questioning me. They asked me, where is Osama bin Laden? Where is Mullah Omar? I was like, what are they talking about? I was in prison.
Because we have to perhaps also to explain, you might, when you're a bit naive, think, well, there were some red flags with this Ould Slahi guy, because you were actually trained by Al-Qaeda, and your brother-in-law was for some time the spiritual advisor of Osama bin Laden and used his cell phone to call you. And there was also this case of a money transfer for medical aid, and you've been cleared of all of this, but you somehow you might think, well, there are some things that raise questions, especially in this frantic post 9/11 situation. Or is this too easily said by me?
No. It's correct. Absolutely correct. It's all because of a phone call I received from my cousin that is a member of my tribe. And his father was in the hospital and he needed help, to pay for the bills. I was in Germany then. And I said, of course, I help you send him the money. But the problem that he was calling from a phone that was registered under the late Osama bin Laden, and then they were saying what the relationship, But they have the phone call. They listen. The phone call was, to help.
But they thought it was in code, perhaps that it was a coded transcription for something else.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where like the necessity of like the rule of law, because not just because someone called you, even like Osama bin Laden himself, if he calls you, you always need to go through the rule of law because you may be wrong, you may be wrong. And we know that they were wrong. In 2005, in 2003, my first prosecutor resigned because he saw that I was tortured so badly, sexual assault, multiple occasions. I was like drowned. And I was put in the
what is infamously called the special interrogation program that Donald Rumsfeld himself signed off on. So they called it special interrogation, but it was actually just
torture, just euphemism. Absolutely. And I remember when the movie came out, someone who didn't like the movie commented, who wrote this shit, quote unquote. And one of my followers wrote Donald Rumsfeld.
Yeah.
I mean, literally. And and I just gave them confession. I said, whatever you want, I sign. And I signed whatever they wanted. But CIA, FBI, they know I didn't do this. And in 2005, they brought another prosecutor. His name is Colonel Mo Davis. We are friends now. And he wrote in his report that he talked to all the relevant agencies, and they all agreed that I didn't do anything, you know. But they left me in prison because my imprisonment has no price. You know, they don't need to pay anything for my imprisonment, you know. And that's need to change. Just because you're from Africa or from India, you know, we can do whatever we want. And I am going to advocate for this, that all human beings deserve, you know, human rights.
It's really amazing reading your book, Mohamedou, that even under this great duress, you still kept up this very basic idea. I'm a citizen of Mauritania. There is nothing I ever did to anyone in the United States, even though I might know people or remotely know people who did something to the United States that has no connection with me. You kept this amazingly clear mind all the time, even under this big duress. And of course, as you said, at one point, even you broke. I can also, and now you're also so lucid speaking about all this. Weren't you also, I think weren't you also really angry and depressed? And how could you keep up this optimism even in this duress?
So two things I need to mention. You know, I mean, you guys are privileged because you grew up in a democracy. You don't know what dictatorship look like. You just read about it. But dictatorship is really bad because the problem is the government, the executive branch of the government, they have everything. They have the weapons, they have the police, they have the guns, they have the airplanes, they have all the tools of oppression. And that the people entrusted them to take care of this. And if those people turn against us, we cannot defend ourselves. That's why I always said to them, I am not telling you anything before you charge me and you tell me why you kidnapped me. And they kept saying, no, you have no rights. I said, it's no problem, but I will assert my rights. And they said, we'll put you in prison forever. And I would say, no problem. I'm just going to keep this because this is the right thing to do. You know, we have always to defend our rights, you know, and not use violence in any shape or form. And something happened to me during this imprisonment that changed my view of the world. After 8 months in the secret site in Jordan, I was taken and they told me I was going home. But they didn't take me home. They took me to the airport and then they a new team start to cut my clothes and they stripped me naked. They put me in diapers. I knew I wasn't going home. And then it came to my mind those very violent American prisons where they would, you know, sentence me to death or forever imprisonment. And I started to regret you know, what I did in life. The only thing, I tell you what I didn't regret. I didn't regret not having money. I did not regret those beautiful women I met and they didn't want me. I didn't regret not having a house. I didn't regret any of this. I regretted only one thing, not being kind enough to people. I wish I was kinder to my mother, kinder to my sisters, brothers, the people I'm associated with, my ex-partners. And then I took it upon myself and I took a vow of kindness when God gives me back my life. And it was like so clear to me and changed my life completely.
Wow. Whilst you were in prison in Guantanamo, you learned English through reading and through speaking with the guards. And because of your case, you started writing on what's now the book. There are 2 editions of the book, actually. The first edition is with all redacted pages, and in the second edition, the redacted pages are filled in again with a gray background, so we can read what wasn't there in the first edition. And then came the point that you got up for in the legal process for a habeas corpus, and you got pardoned. And you would think, I'm free. I'm free. This is where the movie also ends, with this scream of freedom. But lo and behold, the American system kept you still there for years. How did you survive during these years? Because that's not in your book. How were these years when you thought, but I'm already free?
So the book, when I wrote it for my lawyers, it was held for 7.5 years. They didn't allow it to
be published.
And this is a country, the land of the free, you know. And so it was kept for 7.5. And then when they gave it, they took a lot out of it. And to this day, I don't have the right to get my book. They did not give it back to me. And I had to work out of memory to work out what they took out. And I don't think I was 100% successful. And yeah, I just give you an example. Let's say if the police in Rotterdam arrest you for like killing, they said you killed a guy. And let's skip torture, skip all of this. They just take you to court and the court acquitted you. But the state said, no, we are not releasing you, we put you in prison until we go to another court that could help us. This is what happened, because I won my habeas and I was so happy I'm going home. They said, not too fast. I said, okay, they said they're going to appeal. I said, I don't care, I'm going home. If they appeal, that's their problem. They said, no, they still keep you in prison. And
for years, actually.
6 years.
Six more years after your habeas.
More than 6 years.
Yeah.
And until this is like complete disregard of the rule of law, because they said we only release you on CIA, FBI, and all the others said you can be released. They don't care about courts. And this is like, I think this is, you know, the very design of democracy is that the executive branch has much more power over the other three branches, like the judiciary and the parliament, because parliament doesn't have weapons and the judiciary doesn't have weapons. Because the only way this works, if the executive branch cooperate fully with both parliaments and the judiciary.
Yeah. So 5 years ago, almost to the day, you came back to Mauritania. And I want to speak also about your current, because this is, of course, the biggest story of your life, but thankfully and luckily, you didn't stop writing then. I just finished this afternoon, Ahmed and Zarga, your novel. Can you please explain, because it's on the one hand, it's a completely different story, and on the other hand, it sort of resonates your story as well. Can you tell something about it? Because I think people should not just know you for those 14 years, they should also know you as the writer you are today.
Thank you so much. So I'm a writer by accident. You know, I'm a trained microelectronics engineer. I studied in Duisburg University, not far away from Venlo. Venlo was like about 40 kilometers. I mean, the border was so close to us. So I wasn't far. So, but I was forced to write because I didn't have other choice. And so, yeah, Ahmed and Zarga. And so when I started learning English language from the guards, no formal training. That's why I speak funny. And so they keep telling me, oh, you speak English very well. And then I would say, ah, thank you. They said, did you read Shakespeare? I said, no. And then I took it upon myself to read Shakespeare. I asked them to bring me a book. They brought me the book. I read it. I didn't understand anything. And but the good thing, when they ask me now, did you read Shakespeare? I say, yes.
Yes.
Because no one has time to test me, you know. But you know, I really wanted to understand Shakespeare, and then someone brought me Mary Lamb and her husband. You know, they wrote like Shakespeare, rewrote Shakespeare. Then I loved it, and then I start writing about how I learned the English language. So I took all the stories of Shakespeare and I rewrote them in English myself. And I have this book, The Awful English Language, one manuscript. The other manuscript is Portable Happiness, you know, the freedom of the soul, you know, versus the freedom of the body. And I wrote a third manuscript, is Ahmed and Zarga, you know, to dedicate it to the memory of my father and his generation.
Yeah, because it's about the main character, Ahmed, is a bit like your father. He's a Bedouin, he's a camel herder, and he's and it's a search for, on the plot level, it's a search for his lost beloved camel Zarga.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And then the other thing, I wrote Ahmed in Deutschland. It's about, you know, about the identity crisis of the children of immigrants in Europe who couldn't find themselves, you know, anywhere, who couldn't find themselves in their new country, you know, the country of their, you know, their country of birth. And when they go back, they have no place because no one wants them and they are not like the other people. But all of those manuscripts were confiscated from me. I had no right to take any one of them, and they disappeared. And then I started to rewrite them. And in the middle of writing Ahmed and Zarga, they gave me back some excerpts. My lawyer got some of it. And that's the story. You know, Ahmed and Zarga, please, I want you to read it. It's not very big, and I think it's something different than the life you would see in Europe or in the Western world in general.
Definitely, definitely. It showed me a lot of insight in this Bedouin culture. And if you have that as a background, the diaries read even harsher because you know what how your culture is about receiving guests and being open and trustworthy and friendly. We have to round this talk off, but finally I want to say to the people here that you're also by now a playwright, since I'm a dramaturg at the Dutch National Theatre, and I know this for some time now. You've been working with Night Ensemble in Groningen with Guy Weitzman and Ronnie Haver, and your diary is the basis for the production Freedom, which is still touring. Everybody go and see this. And you're also working on a new project, I heard, based on the book Orientalism by Edward Said. And I just was, as a dramaturg working in theater, I'm so interested because our Dutch theater culture must be so different from what you're used to over there. How is it to work with? How is it to work with him here?
Yes, absolutely. You know, this is like, in no way, and I appreciate it because, you know, sometimes you cannot express yourself except in poetry. Sometimes you cannot express yourself except in dance. Sometimes just like staring, that you express yourself. And just this, you know, we dance, we love to dance, you know, in weddings, in anniversaries, but it's not so formalized. Like you have a very beautiful culture, you know, and very diverse culture in your country. And I was just like, you see, I'm going to write this, but I don't know how it's going to look, because it's like I'm making like a body, and then they have to breathe life into this body. And I don't know how it's going to move around, you know, and it's just something beautiful. I'm getting used to it, and I appreciate it so much, you know. And I also, since we are advertising myself, I also wrote the Arabic version of Amazing Grace.
Ah, yeah, it's in the show, isn't it?
Yeah, and it was also played by Amsterdam Orchestra, and just like, you know, because I love it, you know, and I just said I need to make my own version of it, you know. And I was faced with the being very, very like loyal, very authentic to the original John Newton's.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was successful, you know, because this was like 1700 and something, but I think, you know, and it's different culture, but I think we did a great job, you know. And yeah, so I'm just so happy, you know, because I'm a very big believer that the pen defeats the sword every single time.
I think you're the living proof, Mohamedou, that this is true. And I would recommend everybody here in the audience to read the diaries and also read the footnotes, because at first I was reading the footnotes and it was like, yeah, of course, that's where they got their sources. But your story is sometimes so crazy. You don't believe this is all true and happened, but it is all documented. So read the diary, but especially read all the new stories Mohamedou has to tell and share with us. Mohamedou, thank you very, very much. And thank you.
Dankjewel. Much love to you.